Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Insufferable Filmdork Society discussion of the film Mandy. If you haven't listened to part 1, you might want to if you want this to make sense. Also, we will be spoiling the shit out of this movie, obviously. Why wouldn't we? Anyways, here we go.
And I think that this is like a turning point for the character when he ingests like this. My read on it, he's like he eats some of like this demonic LSD, and it like changes him. It makes him like even more of like a killer and a fighter. That we get revealed at the end that his voice, when he fights Jeremiah, his voice is exactly like the biker he killed.
That scene is interesting to me specifically because I don't think that's his voice. I think that's how Jeremiah is seeing it.
I think in that biker scene, just to go back a second, it is a sequence of transformation. It starts real small when they rip his shirt. And it's clearly that's real upsetting to him because later he's screaming at him about it.
You're in my shirt! You're in my shirt!
Then he gets he kills Butterball in front of the TV, and the blood gets sprayed on his face.
And he's like red for the rest of the movie, just covered in blood.
The rest of the movie, he's just soaked in blood. He puts on some of their biker gear, and he takes the LSD and basically stops speaking for the rest of the movie, even at points where you think that there should be dialogue.
Yeah, he just stops. Like the chemist, he doesn't say a single fucking word, and the chemist is just like reacting to him. It's like he's reacting to him saying things, but he's not saying anything. He also takes a piece of broken glass and takes a little bit of the mountain of cocaine.
Which is just great.
Yeah.
Which is a very Nicolas Cage scene, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just, that wasn't acting. They just filmed him doing that.
The biker sequence is the most recognizably Cagean part of the movie.
It is. And I'd like to say, the violence, with the exception of one scene, all the violence in this movie is very quick. These are not prolonged.
Even like the scene where Mandy burns, you see a little bit of it, but it's mostly Nicolas Cage's anguished face, and it goes to each of the dipshit cultist members. Sister Marlene being real happy because the woman she was jealous about was being burned, like that amazing shot of the guy who's holding the sleeper bag, like sticking his tongue out and grinning.
I find it interesting how they like structured the encounters, because the biker demons are the ones that are handled first. They are the first obstacle for Red. The mortal human followers of the Children of the New Dawn, however, they are the like climb up the mountain.
And honestly, it feels very gamey, where you take out the grunts first, and then you have this sequence with this, mystic who leads you to the final evil stronghold, and he kind of works his way up. He starts out with the two most pathetic ones, and then kind of kills the dipshits and ends with Mother Marlene. It's got a very specific like feel to it. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about the Skull Gang?
I really like their design, and I really like how they are more or less hidden in shadows or obscured visually. This movie very much does not over-explain itself or over-present its creatures. Also, I'd like to point out, on that note, as you get further on, Nicolas Cage's character during the scenes becomes himself more obscured by shadow.
One of the things I like about the bikers, especially as characters, is that it's a constant back and forth in terms of like, are they real? Are they mystical? You first get introduced to them by them blowing the horn of Abraxas and summoning them from the woods. It's completely mystical. And then you get the story about how they're just bikers who are just fucked up on LSD, and you get to like see them up close on a lingering shot in the light for the first time in that house where they capture him. At that point, they're sort of demystified, and you're like, okay, these are just like really fucking weird bikers. And then he takes the LSD and he goes outside to fight the leader of the biker gangs, and he shoots a fucking arrow into the back of his head, and he just pulls it out through the front. And you're just like, okay, maybe not. Maybe these aren't human.
And while I agree, there's a lot of, you're just like, that seems extremely mystical and demonic. You're also like, maybe he's just so fucked up on drugs, it would take him an hour to actually notice that he's dying from a neck wound.
And I love that about them, is that it's never confirmed. They never definitively say one way or another if like these bikers are human beings or not.
And that is a feature that is very, very to this movie's strengths. It very much believes that less is more in some cases. In other places, it overindulges, and it works all the better for it.
All right, I'd like to talk about a scene that probably the scene I struggle with the most, and I'm curious to your thoughts. The scene with the chemist, I don't know what to make of that scene. It's Nicolas Cage, just basically because it seems like he's been given a vision by the dark LSD, goes to this chemist's location, and he says nothing to the LSD chemist, but the LSD chemist seems to be able to understand exactly what he's saying. He has a tiger. Nicolas Cage tells him with his mind that having a captive tiger is bad, so he lets him go.
It's like, you're right. It's time for her to go. And he just opens the cage, and the tiger just runs out into the woods, and it's just like, oh, okay. Guess there's just a wild tiger out there now. There's
all these millipedes on the floor, which I assume is what the poison from the dark LSD is farmed from. Who knows?
I thought those were hallucinations, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like the Reed is like the LSD chemist and like he are now like on the same wavelength and are both completely now entirely fucked up, and just like they're having a conversation that's happening entirely in their heads.
Oh man, they wronged you. Why they gotta be like that? You exude a cosmic darkness. Can you see that?
I don't know. It sort of makes sense in the moment if that makes any sense.
Nothing makes sense.
No, I think it does. Like the tone is sort of like he comes in there and he just looks fucked up as hell. He just stares.
No, I mean, to Red, nothing makes sense. But it doesn't matter. He's already crossed that threshold. He's singularly minded at this point. Which I agree with Reese here. I don't understand the place that the chemist has in this sort of, I don't know, cosmology? Is that the word to use here?
I know what he is. He's the fucking mystical wizard who makes the magic potions. He's like the wizard he has to go and see to learn the whereabouts of the cult. I'm assuming he's the same person that created the drugs for Mandy.
I think that's pretty much true.
It's basically stated that he knows who the bikers were because he said, they wronged you, didn't they? Or maybe he's referring to the cult, but they're like related.
Pretty sure that's the Children of the New Dawn.
He's basically like the scene in a normal movie where he goes to the wizard's tower and asks for advice, but it's an LSD manufacturer and they're both high as fuck.
And there's a tiger. Named Lizzie. The fact that the tiger is given a name makes it all the better.
That, and when the chemist, obviously with sorrow in his heart, goes bye, Lizzie, as he pads away. It to me is the cherry on that cake.
Well, I thought the implication there was like off scene, the chemist is killed, or something along those lines.
I don't think so.
But we as the viewers aren't given the satisfaction. I
take it as Nicolas Cage spared him personally. I think it's purposeful that Nicolas Cage read in this movie is not 100% a mindless killer. There's either direct involvement with Mandy's death or, you're just fucking with him and deserve to die. But, he later on, he spares that one girl who's clearly just like an utter moron who got wrapped up in something.
Does he spare her or does he kill her off camera? I don't think that's ever clarified.
Which girl?
Sister Lucy, the young one.
She's spared.
She is?
It's impossible to say unless, you see it on camera. But to me, I see it as the chemist and Lucy are spared.
I guess it's really hard to tell because it's one of those things that they never, clarify.
To me personally, the clarification is the relish that is taken with each other kill. That if there was a death from the chemist or Lucy, the language that we've seen thus far, we would see that and we would see how and why he did it.
I think you might be right. And plus, when they've got he's taunting him in the shed while he's tied up, he's like, show how much you love me, and hands her a fucking revolver with one bullet in it and does the Russian roulette thing. And he's just like, no! And then she does it and just she doesn't die.
I think it's kind of important to note for their on-screen relationships, I suppose, Red has with the characters. Sister Lucy is, I think, the only one that never says a word.
When they're getting Mandy, he says, it's a beautiful dream, and you can be a part of that dream with us. So, yeah, I agree, but it's you get a little bit of a sense of the passivity. And I think that kind of Red senses that. And I think it is an act of mercy where it's listen, maybe you deserve to die for being a part of this, but I just don't have it in me to kill somebody who is just been hooked along for the ride.
Yeah, she's definitely portrayed as a victim of Jeremiah more so than an active participant in the cult. Because she gets sent to his room right at the beginning of the movie after he's Brother Swan, go and get me that person and send in what's her name to my room. And it's sort of implied that he is sexually abusive.
More than just an implication, I think.
Yeah. But also, I think, too, to me, my read on it is that he spares the chemist just because he's already made that pact with him, being a part of the dark LSD. The chemist was totally submissive, gave him everything he wanted. Maybe was you or I could say that he has a degree of responsibility for creating the situation. But Nicolas Cage is just kind of well, I'm already on your dark LSD. I guess fuck it, you can live.
Yeah, I don't think he kills the chemist. I never got that implication.
There's a lot of stuff that's left up in the air, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, too, is that I think the director would be happy to let you have either interpretation. Because I think he's stated in multiple interviews, the thing that interests him least in a story is the actual plot and getting too into it. He likes the tone, he likes the feeling, he likes the emotional effect it has on the audience.
If I can, I will accept any punishments sent for this. But is Panos Cosmatos the Dark Souls of film?
Oh, man. I think, to me, personally, I feel like Mandy needs an easy mode.
Oh, is this the discourse we're getting into now?
Yeah, exactly. You should be able to skip the romance parts and skip the part where the blood gushes onto his face.
I think you should have a cheat code to play as the Cheddar goblin for all the movie.
Now we're talking. Now we're bringing this all back.
Fucking Red gets replaced with a Cheddar goblin. The scene is just he walks into the house afterwards, and then he just sees the commercial. And then, it cuts back to him, and he's the Cheddar Goblin standing there, and you look back at the TV, and Red is in the fucking commercial. Man, that would have been a good scene.
Panos, please contact.
Yeah, we've got some ideas.
A sequel to Mandy starring the Cheddar Gum. Okay, never mind. Let's get to the good stuff.
Let's talk about the ending, the kind of final stuff, and then the ending of the movie, which I think supports a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about here. He makes his way to the compound, which is this like fucked up valley, where they seem to be doing like a lot of work.
It's a quarry.
Where they've built a church, like an A-frame church, like one of those old A-frame buildings. It's literally just a triangle, and they've got a big cross in it.
I just want to say, like, the way it's visually given to us is awesome. The visual presentation of the church is really fucking cool.
The way that you see it, and it pans downward, and you see the whole valley and the quarry, which makes total sense that that's a quarry.
That is where we have the most l'epic scene in the movie, where they fight using chainsaws.
I just want to say, before the chainsaw fight, you get to see Mullet Guy, like, sensually polishing this car.
Yeah.
Then you hear a whoosh, and the big old battle axe in a shadow play silhouette just sticking out of his head as he just, like, stands shaking while blood spews everywhere.
It's the perfect kind of dipshit thing to be doing, is just like, this all this guy cares about, being a part of this cult and doing fucked up things, and then he just washes his car lovingly
while listening to like mariachi music. But yeah, his death is quick. Who's the guy he fights with the chainsaw again? Because Swan is already dead, right?
We should probably actually describe Swan's death, because I feel like the intimacy of that specific death, I feel, is kind of important to Red. Basically,
Swan is 100% unrepentant. He's hilarious, pathetically, he's like, you're hurting me, and then he's just like, she burns, and just saying all kinds of fucked up shit about Mandy to him.
She burned brightly, Mandy, don't you think? Still, better to burn out than fake.
It's really a kill that he savors, and he sticks the sharpened end of the battle axe all the way down his throat. Basically just savoring that guy's death, because he sucked so much and he was such a sycophant to Jeremiah. And I think intimacy is a great way of putting it. Some of these kills were just like necessary for survival, or these guys put down.
like Squishy Demon, he just snapped its neck.
They're like the rabid dogs he's putting down. Swan is relatively normal by comparison and chose to do this. And so he's just like, fuck you. It's going to be great to have you not on this earth. And I think intimacy is the perfect way of describing it.
Anyway, who wants to describe the chainsaw fight?
I would like to describe this, and Reese can back me up once a little bit if I forget anything. He fucking sees, like, the last guy, like the dark-haired guy with the greasy hair. He's walking up to him slowly. He not paying attention. He's, like, doing some bullshit with wood. He sees a fucking chainsaw on the ground, and you just, like, see the gears turning in Red's head.
Because he's a lumberjack, so...
He's just, like, he picks it up and just starts slowly walking towards the last guy, trying to get the damn thing started. He's like, vroom, vroom, and it's not starting. And then the greasy-haired guy notices him and pulls out from behind a log an even longer fucking chainsaw.
It's very phallic.
It's incredibly phallic. It's like
it is like 4 times as long. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's just like it is like 100% like this scene's like, oh, that's not a knife. This is a knife.
It rules.
And you just see the look on Red's face. He's like, uh-oh, as he's like slightly panicking and trying to get the chainsaw to work.
the dipshit gets his long chainsaw started first try, and Red's just like, okay, all right, this isn't funny anymore. Let's get the chainsaw to start.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an erectile dysfunction joke.
It's 100% like really phallic for some reason.
I think a lot of the themes in this movie revolve around masculinity, and like this guy, you know, as big of a dipshit as he is kind of the most, like, for lack of a better term, the most alpha male outside of what Jeremiah thinks he is. Like he's, you know, and he can wheel. He's pretty good in a fight and isn't like one of those fucked up bikers. He's kind of like the most normal human male analog, as brutish and awful as he is. So it's this interesting comparison. I don't know if I could read this much into it, but to me, I take it as Red is somebody who's very outside of society and is kind of an outcast. And I think it might be him kind of coming and facing that as, you know, one of the last vestiges of his humanity melts away as he's doing this, because now he's half demon biker.
He multi-classed. But the method of execution for this fight, however, was comical.
Yeah.
It was comical in its absurdity.
He basically falls
onto the super long chainsaw, and it just like blood goes everywhere.
And it's just like such an extended, making fucked up noises and shaking death. All of his insides spray out in front of him. It's interesting how violent they choose to show like various deaths. And I think it is connected to like, you know, for lack of a better term, toxic masculinity.
He falls on his own dick.
I would definitely say if it is connected to toxic masculinity, it wouldn't be intentional. However, I wouldn't, given the themes of toxic culture that he pushed forth, I would not put it past Panos to have at least some sort of insight into it.
For sure. Well, I think too, it's just like part of it is that, and I think part of it too, he's just kind of rocking and rolling with what he thinks are like the images that will emotionally resonate. And so maybe it's unintentional, but I still think it fits very well.
I think it's funny he fell on his own peepee. His own metal peepee. There's a lot of metal phalluses in this movie, I just realized.
You know, I can't help feeling that I too took some energy from the burning.
Well, that would be nice for you, wouldn't it? But really, you didn't. It was meant for me and me alone. I was enriched by the horse slaughter, not you.
Yes, of course, Jeremiah.
Not to worry, though. By my ascension, you too shall rise.
Oh, I just want to say that the executing of the greasy hair man is what leads us to the visual treat of the church.
And he enters into it, and he's just like looks at the altar and their like religious text, and he just like reads it for a second with just like an amazing level of disgust. Like, what the fuck are you idiots doing here? Anyways.
Then he pulls out the pulpit. The church is just sort of a front, and it leads down into this like almost like a bunker, but completely sparse. There's nothing in it. I really don't know how to describe it other than like a dungeon.
Sister Marlene, the last one left alive, has her own little like hidey hole in the corner with like a kind of lava lamp thing and a single like bench, and she sleeps on the floor. And it's clear that it's just like, oh, he just treats all of these cultists like complete shit. And she's like at the top of the food chain. How much worse must the rest of them live? Yeah, and their interaction is also one of the more painful. It's short, but wow, it is hard to watch. It really is. It is basically how Jeremiah told her she was like really amazing to fuck. And like how much she's put into that. And you're just like, just kill her, man. This is fucked up.
Jeremiah says, I'm the most sensual lover he's ever experienced because of my sensitivity and my empathy. I can anticipate my lover's every move and meet them like
he does,
Yeah.
but off screen.
She basically like begs for her life in trying to like bargain with him. And yeah, he cuts off her head and throws it at Jeremiah, which is just like, and he freaks the fuck out.
What I love about it is that he freaks the fuck out, but not because this cultist of his is dead. He just thinks the head is gross. Like he kicks the head back at him. Like there's no reference for the head. Jeremiah is sitting in this otherworldly cavern where this red pulsating light bathes him. And he is in his tidy whities, basically just humping the wall.
He's new age dancing. He's like cavorting about in like spiritual bliss. He's communing with the god or whatever thing that he's like worshiping.
Yeah, this is where we get the thesis of his religion in perspective.
Well, we got it earlier with Mandy, where he's like, he spoke to me and he said, "It's all yours, Jeremiah. It's all yours. It's all for you." Which is just like the most narcissistic, like self-serving religious cult possible.
It's his thesis in the sense of like it's the thesis of who he is, less than like what he believes, because he gets like so pathetic. He's like, "What do you want? I'll suck your dick."
I'll suck your fucking dick.
And then after that, he's like, "I don't kneel before anybody. You kneel before me."
He does like a straight up Gollum turn where he just goes from Schmeagol to Gollum in like a couple seconds, where he's just like, no, I don't kneel to anyone, like right after weeping and sobbing.
Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Oh, tell me what to do. 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 Tell me. Ever doubt yourself.
Well, I mean, you just see like it's his response mechanism for every time he feels weak. He goes to this. But the demon bitch Willow told me that everything was mine, so I'm just going to believe in that. And you know, when he was looking in the mirror and he's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" You see that too, where it's like
after he got his dick laughed at earlier in the movie, he goes to the mirror and he's like, he just stares into it and just repeats, "What do I do?" over and over and over again. He just really conveys how pathetic and desperate he is. And then he composes himself, and then you just see like the influence of like what this bullshit he believes over himself is just like, and I can't remember what he says, but it's something like, "Never doubt yourself," or something like that.
What if the secret went horribly wrong?
That's a good way to describe it, honestly. That's his cult.
You can't harm me, man. I mean, look at what he provides. It's all mine. You're just meat. Without a soul, without a brain, without anything. Animal, you have no spirit, everlasting, no radiant light. I possess elucidations you will never know.
The psychotic drowns where the mystic swims. You're drowning. I'm swimming.
You unholy abomination. You aren't even worth my spit. It's all that hate in your heart. That's to blame. Follow
everywhere, man. Follows you everywhere. I can still help you. It's not just your life I can save. No, it's your goddamn soul. No, please don't hurt me. Can't you see this was all part of your journey? The journey that led you to me. To your salvation. Your cleansing by my hand. I'll blow you, man. I'll suck your fucking dick.
That's the commentary, is that like a lot of powerful narcissistic dipshits go in this direction of every time they are shown to be weak in any way, shape, or have their fucked up fiction, they're just like, oh, Hillary Clinton has told me I'm perfect and I will never not perfect. So I'm going to go out on Twitter and...
Oh my fucking god. Oh. Mother told me it's all for me.
And
if mother were elected, I'd be having brunch.
Oh my god. Children of the new brunch.
Oh my god, we might have a title.
Wave.
But Nicolas Cage says to him, and I think he bellows something at the bikers, but basically the first time he's spoken in like 40 minutes.
I am your god now. Oh, it's
and
so
then
fucking
crushes
good.
his fucking head.
Like, just with his two bare hands, just crushes it.
As far as head crushings go, like, it takes a while. Like, you see everything like crack, and you see the prosthetic of the practical effect give in.
Some eyeball bulge technology going on.
It was such a beautifully done scene.
And he has like that low demonic post-processed voice that the bikers had. And so like he hasn't spoken since that time. I don't think he said anything after he like took the LSD basically. My theory is that it's basically transported him to their world, metaphorically speaking, where he's now just like fully drugged out and like he's seeing all the mystical elements as like real.
I think he's kind of transformed all that stuff into the stuff through Mandy's eyes. I think, it's still very much a part of them. He's got their blood on him. He's, definitely fucked up on LSD, the dark LSD. But I think that I don't know exactly
LSD,
what it's meant to mean. LSD. Nice. It's about the mystical power he draws from Mandy being just infinitely more powerful than his narcissistic mystical power that he's ginned up, is how I read it.
If I want to get meta-commentative about it, it's sort of a refutation of the, I guess, hyper-individualism that we see so much, that's been happening so much since like the age of the internet began. The idea that there is nothing outside of the self or ego pitfalls that sort of rise up, because like this is the result.
And specifically the American self, I would say. I think this is, to me, it's very much rooted in his hatred of kind of like
Reagan,
the hippy-dippy New Age shit and Reagan Christianity. They rise up and how people just use that as a system of social control.
The last scene in the movie, he's driving in this car that he took from the mullet man, and the car's empty. He looks over to the passenger seat, and Mandy is there.
Before that moment, there's a scene where I think it's supposed to be the first time he meets Mandy, and they're in a bar. And
was at a concert?
Oh, at a concert. And they're both wearing the shirt he says is his favorite shirt. And Nicolas Cage's face is in total shadow until he sees Mandy, and then there's this like hallucinogenic bloom of light just completely encompasses him. And then there's that car scene where Nicolas Cage is dressed up in his metal getup, and Mandy is wearing the band shirt from earlier in the film.
And then it cuts back to him and he's grinning like a lunatic. Just Nicolas Cage going full, like, Nicolas Cage smile and wide eyes and just covered in blood and his blood-soaked biker gear.
Well, I think it's important to point out that it's definitely very intentionally shot this way, that Mandy is not in the car. The shot of Mandy is her face at the scene where he found her, imposed outside of the car window.
Right. Well, like, it cuts to the outside of the car, like the front of the car, and you see into the car, and you just see him. You don't see Mandy, so it's like he's hallucinating that she's there.
Well, I think too. It's. I would even say it's like at this point, it's beyond hallucination. It's just like that kind of dreamlike experience that comes with hallucinations is just like permanently imprinted on his brain in a way,
right?
Because the last scene is you pan up and it's that alien sky with, it seems like, you know, planets in the background and these fucked up mountains.
It looks like they're on fucking Mars. Like it goes back to like the beginning of the movie where they're talking about like their favorite planets. Every single scene in this movie is like painstakingly crafted to basically be like the cover of a heavy metal album. That is a very specific aesthetic that Panos was going for with this movie, and that he also went for in in Beyond the Black Rainbow. In this movie, however, he sort of goes full tilt into it because the choice of music in this movie. So the soundtrack was done by Johan Johansson. I believe it was the last soundtrack he did before he died. But as well as Johan Johansson, they had help on the soundtrack from one Stephen O'Malley. Does that name ring a bell to any of you? Nope.
No.
Stephen O'Malley is the guitarist, one of the geniuses behind the sort of apocalyptic druid drone band, Sun. Do you know Sun?
I know that you're a metal knower, so I definitely wanted this insight because I am vastly not knowledgeable in this place.
Okay. This guy, the trailer music, that driving, like, reverbed guitar loop through the fuzz box, that is Stephen O'Malley contributing to this. When the Horn of Abraxas is presented, that's Stephen O'Malley, because his touches on the soundtrack are brought forth. It's that alien moment. The Horn of Abraxas, when he's driving through the tunnel in the quarry on the 4x4. And the soundtrack was also produced by the man who's basically produced all the Wolves in the Throne Room albums. And I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they are the formative figure in American-style black metal. There's a lot of like very subtle production chops and cues taken from a very foundational part of the American metal, specifically American extreme metal scene. You remember how the logo for Mandy turned into...
Yeah, no, the logo for Mandy, I don't know that much, but that is the archetypical
that's basically a black
logo.
metal. That's basically a black metal band logo. But the like sonic design in this movie, it's very tilted for stress and release, which the release is also very stressful.
Cheddar goblin.
Very important feature of a lot of the metal that was being sort of represented here, like black metal, drone metal, in that there's no release, there's only escalation, and then nothing.
Seems like a lot of effort was put into kind of making that kind of like authentic connection. Well, not like he just found a couple metal bands. He like really dug deep for like people who really kind of know how to
not just know how to
foundation.
Fundamentally shaped the American metal scene. It's really cool, and it's done in a way that's conducive to what he's trying to do and not shoehorned in.
There was the article that came out recently that they did scans or whatever on people listening to metal music, and they found it was actually something that brought people a lot of joy and peace, stereotypically. And that kind of matches with a lot of things that Panos talked about with Mandy, where he said he wanted it to be a comforting film despite all of the imagery and despite all of the stress and the building and the escalation. He wanted that presence to be something that in the end, despite what you just went through, you're in a more peaceful, comfortable place. In a weird way.
Well, it's catharsis. It's a movie that is fundamentally cathartic. At least for me, it was. Because the slow burn of the early moments leading up to basically a
orgy of violence.
Not an orgy, like 30 minutes of adrenaline and escalation, and then dipping back down into the lulling and slow burn. It's a very, very good movie. I would suggest everybody watch it.
Well, there's just the one thing I wanted to say before we finally sign off and end Alton's torture. As much as it is about all these other things, it's also about Panos Cosmatos' relationship with his parents, who passed away before this movie and were both artists. His dad was the guy who directed Rambo 2.
And Tombstone.
And Tombstone. I always forget that. I haven't seen Tombstone in a long time. And I think it's also interesting viewing it from that end, is that like so much of that stuff where you're like, what does it mean? Is just like maybe he's just referencing his father. And as much as it's supposed to be this catharsis for us, it's also catharsis of the artist. And that's part of why I think it's so effective and why I like it so much. I don't want to go to the whole anti-Hollywood spiel. But, you know, so many movies like have like a very basic kind of 3-act structure, and you know they overcome in the end, and you're supposed to make you feel good, but like no recent big blockbuster has made me feel like a quarter of as good as Mandy personally. But part is just because it's so original and so fresh, and partially too is just because in going to these kind of places, you know, it faces something that's a lot more real, and that's kind of why it's interesting, and that's why I wanted to talk about it for so long.
And it's fucking criminal that Mandy was disqualified for an Oscar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Because it was like a very limited theatrical run, and then released a video on demand, which is apparently like a very specific rule that you can't violate for some reason.
My take on that is that Mandy is 1,000% too good for the Oscar.
Yeah.
They gave awards to a movie by a pedophile, bad movie by a pedophile. And
what movie was that?
The Queen movie. I forget. Somebody to Love. I forget what the title was.
Oh my god, that guy was a pedophile?
Bryan Singer has a long history.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Epstein tier shit.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe not Epstein tier, but real bad.
As if it wasn't bad enough that they like completely discounted anything about like his sexuality in that movie. Like the fact that he died of AIDS. Just sort of like, oh, he died. I've not watched that movie, mostly because I heard it was bad.
It's not good, but Mandy is good.
Yes.
Mandy is very good, and you should watch it. And also, I'd like to say, this might be my own biases speaking, but I think Mandy is a movie that I think can be watched pretty, I don't know, as a pretty good companion too sorry to bother you.
And I would like to add, this might just be my own biases talking, but I think that you could watch this pairs extremely well with the Garfield movie.
Which one? A Tale of Two Kitties?
What's the original one? He's like going out on the town. It's like he's a cool cat, a fat cat, Mr. Number One Cat. Look out, 'cause here comes Garfield. Look out, here comes Garfield. That's a good movie to pair with this.
And that's going to be the next 2-hour movie podcast that we do. Is about the Garfield movie.
The TV special of the same name.
All right, I've said all I have to say about Mandy. Closing thoughts from you two?
I'm gonna take LSD and become a hell biker.
Do it.
It good.
I'm gonna replace my dick with a metal sword.
It good. Just
Good.
Just gonna repeat that. It good. Watch movie.
Gonna take LSD
and become a hell biker.
And shit in Alton's generator at work.
No one's gonna get that reference, man.
I don't care. I think it's 2 hours. I think it's funny.
No, yeah. If you make it this far, you get to the secret in
The
jokes.
reference is that I constantly say shit in places at Alton's work. That's the whole joke.
Replace every can of Spam on Hawaii with LSD.
LSD, hell yeah. Spread that gray goop shit on my toast like butter. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Here are the list of our Patreons for this month. Thank you so much for supporting us. We use your money to buy video games, I'm sorry to say.
Fucking gamers.
I know, right? Disgusting.
Resident Evil 2 is dope.
Yeah. The pod has paid for Resident Evil 2 for Reese. And it bought Earth Defense Force for some of our friends so that we could play that together. And without further ado, here is the list of the powerful poster tier. Goat Napper, thank you very much. I wish you luck in kidnapping goats, I guess. Robert Miles, thank you. Oh,
thank you.
Fuck me. Dear Vigatuato, well, I never thought it would happen to me, ellipses, which otherwise known as Conky.
What's up, Conky?
Hey, Conky. Nate M, thank you very much. Higgins the Seagull, thank you, Higgins.
Big ups to Higgins.
Big up to Higgins. Nathan Melby. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Robert M. Fenner, we appreciate your contribution to our cult. Definitely, definitely not a cult. Video games are the worst thing on earth. It supports independent thought as long as you agree with us.
Exactly.
Kyle Reederman. Did I say Robert Fenner? I think I did.
I think you did.
Tom Devan, the video game man. Thank you. Dissonant Dragon. And Jordan Peterson.
Jordan, you've supported us from day one. You made the Mandy episode happen. We love you, Daddy.
We do. Oh, okay. I'm glad that that's coming at the end of 2 hours, so no one's going to hear that. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We will see you in the next regular episode. Misandry, thank you for coming onto the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Is there any place on the internet where people can find you and content, Misandry?
I just mostly complain about metal on my Twitter, which is at Misandry Cannon. Cannon as in the artillery, not the fanfic stuff.
Right.
Is it a cannon because you just like artillery, or is it?
It's a cannon because why not?
Fair enough. All right, thank you so much for enduring this with me, Alton and Misandry. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the listener. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Cheddar goblin.